Part 41. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 401. Bai Qianchun was suspicious. Would anyone be willing to change? Seeing that she didn't refuse directly, Qin Xiao breathed a sigh of relief, and then nodded seriously, yes. Lin Guiyan, who followed closely, explained to him, S-level rainbow toucan meat is rare on the market and cannot be bought even with money. Many nobles are willing to spend a lot of money to buy it. If they only spend one universal point, otherwise, I think any candidate with some knowledge would be very happy. After all, general points are not a necessity for passing the entrance exam, they are just add-ons. And if you can't take away the remaining bird meat, as long as we leave here, it will be defaulted as voluntary abandonment, and the teacher from the military school will come and take it away, so it is better to exchange the remaining meat with my brother, and use it points of useful value. Bai Qianchun's black eyes flashed, and there was something in her heart. Just when Lin Guiyan thought the deal was about to be concluded, Bai Qianchun suddenly raised her eyes and looked at Qin Xiao, a socially fearful boy wearing a mask. I invite you to join me. How is your team? I have a mandatory task to ensure that the team members pass the entrance exam. By becoming my team member, I can ensure your safety. These meat can also guarantee that you can exchange points instead of being robbed. The points exchanged are 2 for me and 1 for you. Bai Qianchun also had his own considerations when directly inviting him to join the team. First of all, Qin Xiao was willing to save Sun Li, who fell in chaos and crisis, which shows that his character is not bad. Later, in the S-class rainbow toucan, he attacked her flying over here. Lin Guiyan came to help. He was weak but also came over. He did not abandon his sister because of the danger and just watched. This also proved that he was loyal and would advance and retreat together with his companions. The most important thing is that his cooking skills are really good. With this support member in the team, she doesn't have to worry about food, so she is happy to accept such a team member. Qin Xiao's eyes hidden under the long bangs moved. It would be the best thing to have a powerful bodyguard who can guarantee that he will definitely pass the entrance exam, but this is the much anticipated second place. Lin Guiyan understood his social fear and unwillingness to attract outside attention, but if he wanted to be 100% sure of being admitted to the first military academy, then the second place in front of him, who could easily kill the S-class beast, was the best choice. She immediately pushed Qin Xiao, hurry up and agree. You can't help but smile when the second person with your small body invites you to join the team. Anyway, in this examination room where there are so many masters, I can protect your sister. If I don't support you, there is no guarantee that you will be admitted to the first military academy. She was telling the truth. Although she was arrogant, had a high level of superpowers, and could still fight, she was self-aware that it was difficult for her to defeat 4 hands with just 2 fists. She was 80% sure that she could not defeat him alone. Run away, and eventually get admitted to the first military academy, but with this little brother who is a drag, there is no guarantee. But her younger brother has a special status, and it's not enough for her not to protect him. Now, if she has the opportunity to get the second place, she can't miss the express train to pass the entrance exam. I don't know how envious I am looking at Shenfei's little bitch eyes. Qin Xiao nodded dully, yes, I agree to join the team. That's good. Bai Qianchun raised her eyebrows slightly coldly, took out the optical brain, and pulled Qin Xiao into his team to submit as a team member. Once submitted, no changes were allowed until the end of the exam. After successfully recruiting a team member, she glanced at the outsiders who were still looking here, and said to Qin Xiao, go and prepare the bacon. We will set off soon to earn points and complete tasks. Qin Xiao nodded obediently, and his excited steps walking back expressed his mood at the moment. Bai Qianchun turned her attention to Lin Guiyan, what about you? Lin Guiyan smiled and said, I won't join. My mission is still suitable for one person. Yeah, Bai Qianchun looked back and responded calmly. 6 hours later. In the forest with towering banyan trees and a gloomy environment, a group of people led by a muscular and sturdy boy blocked two lone candidates arrogantly. At first, they had a fierce confrontation, but in the end, there was no surprise. A person with more people will win against a person with fewer people. After beating the two candidates until their noses were bruised and their faces were swollen, the group of people immediately happily plundered the contents of their backpacks. Hey, where are the number plates? Their number plates are missing, Brother Huo. After hearing his brother's report, the muscular boy holding the two people frowned and glared at the two people on the ground fiercely. Where is the number plate? Where did the number plate go? The two of them grinned in pain after taking a mouthful of mud. They struggled and turned to look at the people behind them. Bah, let me go first, let us go. Your arms are about to be broken by you. Isn't it just an entrance exam, why are you so cruel? Brother Huo was unmoved. He knitted his thick eyebrows, pressed his arm harder, and pushed the boy back under his hand to chew on the mud. He said fiercely, "Don't get too close. We are taking the martial arts exam seriously." The brothers around him all responded, "Yes, stop the ink quickly and hand over your number plate." Brother Huo, are they hidden on them? Turn them over and see. So the two people with bruises and swollen faces were immediately lifted up and slipped away. A group of wolf-like boys rushed towards them with excited green eyes, and the two people were so frightened that they kicked their legs and screamed, "No, don't pull this, my clothes are not there, they are really gone, ha 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 ha. The one who stepped on the horse tickled my flesh. Damn it, where are you perverts? I'm not gay. Don't shout. No one will come to save you even if you shout till your throat is broken. Just accept the reality." The sounds of laughter came one after another. Behind a big banyan tree not far away, Qin Xiao's ears hidden under his long hair turned red after listening to such harsh words. He turned his head and looked at the person next to him uncomfortably, and whispered. He asked anxiously, do we still want to go there?" Bai Qianchun looked calm and glanced at the person beside her. Her hearing was more sensitive than Qin Xiao's and she listened to the whole process completely, so she was different from Qin Xiao who only listened intermittently and found it quite bold and ambiguous. She said calmly, "Let's go, walk slowly. This area is too big. There are not many candidates to be found, and there are even fewer candidates who are willing to exchange points for bacon. If you miss these few, you don't know when we can meet other candidates again. We are carrying too much bacon, so we should finish the exchange early to reduce the burden, otherwise it will affect our journey." Hearing this, Qin Xiao did not hesitate anymore and nodded solemnly. The bacon he was carrying was indeed too heavy. It was wrapped in big leaves and tied with vines behind the two of them. The weight could not be ignored. Qin Xiao felt that his shoulders are worn out, and if he doesn't exchange points and go out, he will have to rest. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 402. Over there, Brother Huo's group of people, who almost stripped the two of them naked, were finally sure that the number plates on the two men were not hidden, but that they were really gone. The examinee with a bruised nose and face tugged at his clothes, hugged himself tightly, and stared at the group of people opposite him like a little wife. "We all said that the number plate is really gone." A young candidate opposite muttered unconvincedly, "Who knows whether what you just said is true or false? We met several people on the road who insisted that they didn't have it, and we didn't search them out. By the way, I don't think you have been robbed before. Where did your number plate go? And the dried meat in your backpack tastes good. What kind of meat is it? Where did you get it? Brother Huo, let's go get some of this meat to eat later. There is too little in their backpack, not enough for a group of more than a dozen of us." Brother Huo nodded without saying anything. Okay. The two candidates listened with grief and anger on their faces, their eyes were spitting fire, and they were like horses. Not only did these people beat them and search their bodies, they also wanted to rob them of their meat. If they were not under the roof now, they would have been killed in a minute. He opened his mouth and sprayed it back. Just when the two of them had fully explained whether they wanted to compromise or not, they suddenly looked in the direction behind Brother Huo and the group of people. Their eyes suddenly lit up. The two people who had been aggrieved and looked like little wives suddenly became radiant. He turned into a proud face, "Ha ha ha, I want to know what kind of meat is at this time, so it doesn't hurt to tell you. This is the meat of the S-class ferocious beast rainbow toucan. We exchanged it with the second place and made the dried meat ourselves. As for where the number plate went, of course it was exchanged for bacon." "What second place?" "Second in the literary test. Look back, she's here. If you want to eat meat, you can ask her to exchange your number plate." After the two candidates finished speaking, Brother Huo and the others immediately turned their heads and looked behind them, and sure enough they saw two people walking towards this side one after the other. When Bai Qianchun heard what the two candidates said just now, she walked closer and raised her indifferent eyebrows. She looked towards Brother Huo and proactively said, "1 point can be exchanged for 2 kilograms of bacon. How many kilograms do you plan to exchange?" "Ha, exchange for points." Brother Huo raised a pair of vicious thick eyebrows and immediately smiled. Then he looked at Bai Qianchun with bared teeth, looked at the meat on their backs and said, "You want to get points from me? Impossible, but I want all your points and meat. Since you are a woman, I won't beat you. If you hand over your things voluntarily, we will let you go." The brothers following behind him all echoed, "Yes, yes, yes, hand over the meat and number plate, we don't beat women." Bai Qianchunba, who was quickly surrounded by a group of people, stood still and sighed softly, "It seems that this meat cannot be exchanged." Qin Xiao, who was also surrounded by others, also looked helpless. "Yeah, I can't change out again. It was too difficult to exchange the meat." He was too confident before. The meat of the S-class rainbow toucan was indeed popular, but he didn't want to exchange it and just wanted to have it for free. If he hadn't joined Bai Qianchun's team, he would have lost his number plate and meat. "Brother Huo, these two don't seem to want to exchange sex or number plates. There's no other way. If you don't drink a toast and you're fined, we have to grab it. Second place, don't blame us boys for slapping your face with rough hands and feet. Now is the exam, we have to be more serious." When Tu Kayang saw these words, Brother Huo and his group immediately rolled up their sleeves and prepared to take action, but what struck faster than them was a giant green vine, which slapped Brother Huo who was rushing forward. "Take 2 steps back." Brother Huo covered his face, which was burning with pain, and his expression changed drastically. "No, the idea is a bit tough." But by the time he realized this, it was obviously too late. Several more green vines grew rapidly from Bai Qianchun's open palms and moved towards others around him. The water arrows, fireballs, golden knives, and other attacks they launched were all destroyed in mid-air, and the elements escaped. Then the sound of vines beating the flesh came, snap, snap, one after another, squealing. The wails came one after another. Qin Xiao stood behind Bai Qianchun like a little follower without moving. His face behind the mask was expressionless and he was already numb. It's not that he is calm and indifferent, but they have encountered many candidates who are unwilling to exchange number plates and points for bacon. They want to rob their bacon, but in the end, they are all beaten by Bai Qian. Chun took a beating and grabbed the number plate instead. Eliminating the pain of carrying bacon and wearing out your shoulders, teaming up with the second place player feels so safe, and it's so cool. Now he has deeply felt the joy of lying down and winning. Qin Xiao silently squatted down and put down the bacon on his back, intending to rest for a while, but it was too heavy to carry. Alas, not being able to exchange the bacon is also a pain. Why are these people rushing to get bacon? How great is it to do a serious business of handing over meat and handing over number plates? You get meat to eat and I get points. Everyone is happy, but some people just can't think about it. One operation was as fierce as a tiger, and the ferocious mutated vine tamed by Bai Jianchun knocked out Brother Huo and a group of people in 3 strikes. After a while, the wailing people were lying around in a circle, their numb holes were hit, and they crawled can't even get up. Qin Xiao rolled up his sleeves and began to clean up the battlefield, searching for number plates and their backpacks. The 2 candidates who had been beaten into little wives by Brother Huo's group looked at them not far away with bright eyes. As soon as they saw the battle was over, they hurried over and smiled flatteringly at Bai Jianchun. "Boss, let's help you, let's search together. There is strength in numbers, and it will go faster with our help." "Well, I'm sorry to bother you, I'll give you 2 kilograms of bacon later." Bai Jianchun nodded to them and said, she was still very polite to these 2 old customers who knew the current affairs and had patronized their bacon in exchange for points. The 2 candidates' eyes suddenly lit up with surprise. Thank you, boss. You are really the light of our candidates. Our bacon was eaten by these people and we are short of meat." Then they said solemnly, "Don't worry, boss, we promise to search them all over, not even a single number plate, not even their underpants." After making a profound vow, the 2 of them immediately carried it out, stroking their hands and excitedly walking towards Brother Huo and his group. "You, what are you doing? Oh, don't take off my clothes. There is really no number plate inside." Brother Huo, who was in pain and numbness and couldn't get up, looked at the 2 people who were touching him, and his face collapsed. The 2 candidates continued to take off his clothes with smiles on their faces. "Don't worry, Brother Huo, you just swore that we hid the number plate on you. You must be good at hiding the number plate yourself. If we didn't search your underwear, I'm sorry for your idea of hiding number plates. Revenge, you are taking revenge. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 403. Amidst a circle of wailing and shameless scolding, Bai Qianchun's eyes drifted and she walked aside silently. It wasn't that she didn't want to join hands in searching for trophies, but the scene of searching for trophies was not easy to look at, and it was too eye-catching, so she remained silent and left the job to Qin Xiao and the others. Besides, they were quite good at the detailed work of wearing their underwear, and they looked much more professional than her, so let's leave it to the professionals. Then she began to look at the surrounding environment. This area is a rare highland in the wet rainforest. Although there are many dead branches and leaves deposited on the exposed ground, it is better than other places where it will be dented directly if you step on it. So she decisively planned to set up camp here and rest here on the first night of the martial arts test. The bonfire was lit. The 3 people who had plundered Brother Huo's group excitedly walked toward Bai Jianchun with their loot. Oh no, it was mainly 2 people who showed their excitement. Although Qin Xiao was a little excited in his steps, his emotions were not so outgoing. Coupled with a mask, his expression was perfectly covered. As soon as they walked up to Bai Jianchun, they took out the things as if they were offering treasures and counted them excitedly. "Boss, Brother Huo and his group have a total of 38 number plates, 18 of which are their own. 20 of them were stolen by them. There are also a lot of good things in their backpacks. They must have encountered the supply box. There are 2 packs of salt, one opened and one unopened. There is also a small pack of sugar, a bottle of soy sauce, a tent, and a dozen firearms, and some mechanical parts." Parts? Bai Jianchun curiously looked at the pile of shining parts placed aside. There were big and small ones. The big one was as big as a faceplate, and the small one was as thin as a finger ring. The two candidates quickly replied, "These parts should be able to be assembled into an energy gun or a flying car. The ones here are only a small part. According to my guess, all the parts in the material boxes placed in each examination room can be assembled into an energy gun and a flying car." Bai Jianchun said thoughtfully, "Oh, then once the speeding group is assembled, we can cross the examination room." The two candidates were not optimistic, and muttered, "How can it be so easy to build a flying car? The parts here are only 5% at most. If you want to collect them all, you must not only rely on luck to come across all the parts supplies box, and must be able to crush the entire examination room to keep these parts, or snatch the parts from others." Seeing Bai Jianchun looking over, the two of them immediately got excited, raised their heads, straightened their chests, and smiled flatteringly. "What about that? What we are saying is that it is impossible for ordinary people to do it, but for sure, the powerful force like you, boss, is worth it. It can be done." Bai Jianchun glanced at the two flatterers lightly and asked, "What are your names?" The eyes of the two people suddenly lit up and sparkled. Is there opportunity to join the big boss coming? Regardless of whether it was true or not, they quickly stated their names to show their loyalty. "My name is Sun Xin. I am 23 years old. I am 183 centimeters tall and weigh 72 kilograms. I am applying for the Department of Medicine. It is my dream to go to Muyuangxing Experimental Park to make balls. Through my hard work in the past few hours, I have collected several medicinal herbs. Now, when I find another starflower grass, I can make the most common healing potion on the market. My name is Yuou. I am 23 years old. I am 185 centimeters tall and weigh 77 kilograms. I am applying for the mecha manufacturing major. My dad is an engineer at a flying car manufacturing factory. I have been following my dad since I was a child. I can understand the structure of flying cars with my eyes closed. Draw it out, and if I can collect all the parts, I can perfectly put together the flying car. I also have an energy stone in my backpack that can be used as the energy source for the flying car." After the two young men told them all their values, their eyes stared at Bai Jianchun eagerly and expectantly. At first, I just thought that the two of them were pretty good, but then Bai Jianchun, who asked his name, suddenly felt a little moved. Let's not talk about the one who can make potions. Although this person may be popular among other candidates, but to Bai Jianchun it was useless to tell her that she was interested in Yuou, who could make a flying car. With the speed car, it would be much easier to collect points regardless of whether she wanted to cross the examination room or stay in the examination room. At least she didn't have to lead Qin Xiao and carry the bacon and walk step by step like today. Because of this slow motion, she reluctantly gave up on several waves of red dot candidates displayed on the electronic radar. Qin Xiao silently squatted aside to collect the meat. Seeing Bai Jianchun's somewhat moved expression, he also twitched his lips and said silently, "I am also in the mecha manufacturing department, and I can also fly a car." Bai Jianchun's impulsive eyes retracted. Yuou's proudly raised chest slowly lowered, and the smile on his face fell. "No, Big Brother, you are all the official team members of the Big Brother. Why are you here to cause trouble at this time? Wouldn't it be better for everyone to equally share the favor of the Big Brother and the weight of the bacon?" Qin Xiao ignored his resentful eyes, lowered his head and continued to handle the bacon in silence, as if he had never said anything just now. Ahem. Bai Jianchun coughed slightly, drawing Yuou's attention back. "If you are afraid of being robbed next, you can follow us to avoid risks." As for the other things, she couldn't guarantee it. It was up to them to follow or not. If these words fall into the ears of the two of them, it will be a test for the boss. There is another village where there is a bright future and a bright future. Sun Xin and Yuou immediately grinned and nodded hurriedly. Follow, thank you, boss." Then he said very politely, "There are so many of these things, and the pieces are very heavy. Let's help the big brother carry them. We two brothers have nothing but strength." Bai Qianchun also had a smile on her lips, and said with satisfaction, "Eat more meat at night as a reward." Qin Xiao silently cut off another large piece of meat, which made him more pleasing to the two flattering people who wanted to share their favor equally. He was very happy to help him lighten his burden. While the few people were talking, it soon became dark. Brother Huo and his group, who were all in pain from being whipped, finally recovered and hugged the backpack that was returned. The backpack contained the things that Bai Qianchun returned after picking them out in disgust. They licked their faces and stood up not far away. "We built a bonfire and didn't leave here." They had investigated before the exam and found that the forest was the most dangerous at night, with the most poisonous beasts. In the past, most of the candidates were killed at night, so they did not dare to walk around at night just to be on the safe side. Another point is that although they were beaten all over by the second person, they had to admit that with the powerful second person, the safety of their area was more guaranteed, so for the sake of the overall situation and their own lives, I could only grit my teeth and stay here without moving. Even if the smell of meat came from the bonfire next door, they could only hold their stomachs with envy and hatred, pour nutrient solution into their mouths, and endure it. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 404. While munching on the delicious and fragrant barbecue, Sun Xian glanced at Brother Huo's group from time to time, and said warily, "Why are they still here? Do they want to wait for me to launch a sneak attack after we go to bed at night?" Yu, who was beside him, immediately became alert and suggested, "Let's keep vigil separately that night." Sun Xian also nodded in agreement, "Yes, we must keep a vigil. Not only do we have to guard against sneak attacks by these people, but we also have to guard against ferocious beasts and other candidates who act at night. The martial arts exams are most likely to occur during the period. At night, during the martial arts exam the year before last, a candidate snored non-stop and slept like crazy, but was snatched away by an owl that went out to look for food at night. He woke up early in the morning and found that he had changed places and was sleeping in an owl's nest. He was so frightened that he almost died on the spot. Fortunately, the nest of owls had eaten enough before catching him, and they only used him as a reserve food, otherwise this guy would not have seen the sun the next day. Yu also became interested and gave an example he knew. "I also remember what happened one night because they didn't keep vigil. 3 candidates built a bamboo fence around them at night and thought they were safe and fell asleep. Who knew that 3 wild wolves suddenly appeared at night and got into their camp, huddled with them in the haystack and slept together. Early on the first day, 3 candidates were so frightened that they screamed on the spot when they saw the wild wolf, and then a human-wolf fight started early in the morning. The sleeping partners who were sleeping closely together at night turned against each other and became merciless. In the end, 1 wolf died and 2 candidates were seriously injured. In the end, they pressed the help button in time, and the teacher came to the rescue to save the lives of the 3 of them. Life. Qin Xiao lowered his head and gnawed on the meat, listening with great interest and muttering in his heart. Both of their examples were funny, and he knew the one that was more dangerous. There is a group of candidates who can combine to dominate this examination room. On the last night of the examination, they unknowingly entered the territory of the gophers. Because they were blindly confident, there was no one keeping watch at night. As a result, they were killed in the middle of the night. The camp was directly surrounded by a huge group of gopher rats. A group of people who had already been confirmed to enter the military academy suddenly suffered heavy casualties, and the camp was filled with wailing. Fortunately, the teachers before the live broadcast were serious and responsible. They also paid attention to the condition of the candidates at night, and came to the rescue in time to take them out of the gopher encirclement, otherwise this group of people may be completely annihilated, and everyone will be killed directly. In the end, none of this group of candidates passed the martial arts test and entered the first military academy because of this accident. Many people who supported them before the live broadcast were upset, especially their families and relatives. Therefore, vigil is a very important thing. If someone is awake and gives early warning, the situation will be much better. At least he can escape for his life and not react after being surrounded. Of course Bai Qianchun had no objection. She had originally planned to keep a vigil. Being in such a dangerous environment made her easily think of her previous life when she was on a mission, and her Zaiwutong team would always take turns to keep vigil at night. Team Bai Qianxiao, who was silent in fear, suddenly approached Bai Qianchun and spoke. Bai Qianchun, who was thinking about whether to watch the night together or alone, looked at him suspiciously. Qin Xiao subconsciously lowered his eyes to avoid looking directly at her, then pointed in the direction of their bacon and said concisely, "The weather is humid and hot, and the bacon will not last long. There may be problems tomorrow." Bai Qianchun frowned. The spoiled meat was indeed unpalatable. Moreover, the meat can't be exchanged for a few points. There are too few people like Yu Sungzin who understand current affairs and exchange, so it's better for her to just grab it. She hesitated and said, "Should I throw it away? Or feed it to the wolves?" Yu and Sun Xin listened to them with their ears bent, and their expressions were hard to express. They were really dying of waterlogging and dying of drought. Brother Huo, who was not far away, looked even more sad and angry. "Don't feed the wolves. You can feed them. There are more than a dozen of them here. Are the living people not as good as the wolves?" People watching the live broadcast were also heartbroken and unable to breathe. "Little Money loves to eat melons, don't worry, it's a pity to feed wolves. This is the meat of an S-class rainbow toucan. It's hard to find outside, and even the nobles can't buy it." Still fighting for 100 years, the first military academy should quickly open an examination room, delivery and sales service. What a pity that all this meat is wasted. I feel so heartbroken that I can't breathe just by looking at it. Foodie soul, yes, we also want to try what a rainbow toucan tastes like. The first place in the live broadcast room next door, Shengbiu and the cold guy also got a rainbow toucan, and the meat is the same. I can't finish it. I'll die of waterlogging, I'll die of drought if I can't eat this meat anymore. I might just sign up to take the exam for the first military academy next year and catch it myself. I love eating meat buns, ha ha ha. You have to be able to catch it. This is an S-level ferocious beast, and most candidates would not dare to challenge it. Bastard looking at mung beans. Hey, every year when I watch the martial arts exam, I feel heartbroken. The meat that the candidates have nowhere to put slowly rots and deteriorates, and finally becomes inedible. This year, I encountered the meat of 2 S-class rainbow toucans, which is especially heartbreaking. How about I also try to actively work hard to take the military academy entrance examination next year? I am 35 years old this year. The rules for the military academy are that anyone between the ages of 15 and 40 can sign up. I still have 5 years of opportunity. If I work hard, I might be able to do it next year and successfully eat the meat of an S-class ferocious beast. Soul of a foodie, no matter how hard I work, I will never be as lucky as the candidates in this year's number 1 examination room. When I meet the second candidate, Bai Qianchun, who is so reasonable, polite first, and then willing to trade meat for points, I would have been more lucky if I were a candidate in this year's examination room. Okay, I agreed to the exchange without even thinking about it. Everyone sighed before the live broadcast, and the principals who were planning to set up camp here were also sighing in the principal's room. They also made suggestions to Yu Hai, the principal of the first military academy. "Look, the people are so enthusiastic and sincere. How about opening a link to the examination room to sell meat as they wish?" Another principal retorted, No, it breaks the rule of not communicating with the outside world, and there are so many people. Once the link starts to be sold, we won't be able to grab it. Oh, I mean it's not good to trade with outside star coins. It is more fair and realistic for us to give points. Students must use points after entering the military academy. The ferocious beasts in the martial arts examination room belong to the military academy, and they must be exchanged with points. Hey, I've even fed those little cai. They are considered to be raised by me. I'm not content with not being able to eat their meat. Finally, after hard persuasion from the live broadcast viewers and the principals, Yu-Hai, the principal of the first military academy, finally compromised. As a result, all candidates in the examination room received a temporary interruption message on their computers. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 405. Ding dong, in order to comply with the virtue of diligence and thrift introduced by the Empire this year, the first military academy has specially launched a meat and herb recycling function during the martial arts examination. If candidates have excess meat and herbs that are difficult to dispose of, they can exchange points with the military school official. The exchange list is as follows: B grade ferocious beast meat 1 point per 2 kilograms, A grade ferocious beast meat 1 point per kilogram, S grade ferocious beast meat 2 points per kilogram, SS grade ferocious beast meat 3 points per kilogram. Medicinal herb categories and ferocious beast meat. The exchange conditions are the same. Special note, the herbs and meat in the rainforest belong to the military academy. Candidates have no ownership rights and are not allowed to take beast meat or herbs out of the examination room. Candidates are advised not to collect more. Those who collect more can choose the points list to redeem points. Next to the clearly extinguished bonfire, Sun Xian had a slumped face and muttered, "I can only redeem so many points. The school is too stingy." Uou, who was also looking gloomy at first, immediately jumped up and slapped his friend on the shoulder fiercely. When Sun Xian looked over with his teeth bared in pain, he immediately winked at him and cursed fiercely with bravado. "What are you talking about? This exchange system has already taken good care of our current batch of candidates. There was no such thing before. Moreover, the wool comes from the sheep. It is already a great kindness that we can use the wool to exchange points with the sheep. How can you not know how to be grateful?" Sun Xian was stunned for a moment, and then he immediately realized that his friend was hinting that the teachers and principals before his live broadcast were watching. He quickly changed his face, corrected his attitude, and nodded sincerely, "You are absolutely right, I just said I was just a bit confused and couldn't react for a while. I definitely don't mean to complain. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. Thank you to the First Military Academy and the teachers at the First Military Academy for taking such good care of us and giving us the opportunity to earn points. I love the First Military Academy and the teachers." Bot, 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 it's all the sound of slapping rainbow farts. Although most people can tell that this guy is making a show, some teachers can't help but feel comfortable and look at Sun Xian more. I appreciate the praise that a child can be taught. Bai Qianchun twitched at the corner of his mouth next to him, and then clicked on a window sent by Guang Naishang's military academy, which indeed led to the redemption list. She said to Qin Xiao, who had not left yet, "Let's distribute the meat according to the original proportion. I'll take 2 and you 1 to exchange for points." Qin Xiao's eyes hidden under her long bangs flashed with a surprised look, and then she quickly waved her hands, looking at Bai Qianchun with a blushing face, and stammered and hurriedly refused, "No, no, I didn't." Bai Qianchun glanced over and said with force in his cold tone, "Just like I said, this meat is the bacon you made and carried it all the way. I would have left it there without your suggestion by the pool." Qin Xiao was so stunned that she swallowed the words back in her throat, her Adam's apple rolled, and finally she just said okay with a stiff voice. Then Bai Qianchun took out his saber and divided the meat quickly, and scanned the meat separately with Qin Xiao to redeem points. After discarding some bits and pieces of internal organs and bones, only the pure meat of the S-class rainbow toucan was left here, which was only about 150 kilograms. Bai Qianchun didn't save any of it, and planned to use it all. Exchange it into points. Anyway, there are many ferocious beasts in this rainforest, and you can hunt them anytime you want. She divided 150 kilograms of meat into two parts, which was 100 kilograms, and could be exchanged for 200 points. Qin Xiao divided it into one part, which was 50 kilograms, and could be exchanged for 100 points. Sun Xian, Uou, brother Huohu was peeking here not far away, and other people swallowed their saliva and looked at Qin Xiao with envy and jealousy. This man favored by God. This guy must be very lucky. He formed a team with the big boss right away, and the big boss generously gave him meat to redeem points. Another boss would definitely not be so generous and generous. Sun Xian and Uou looked at it with eager eyes, and their eyes became even more intense. They must perform well to enter the gangster team. As long as they join the gangster team, they will not only pass the exam and enter the first military academy, but also the first bucket after entering the military academy. Gold is also on the horse. Qin Xiao, who was secretly envied by everyone, didn't notice their looks at all. After redeeming the points, he absent-mindedly poked at the fire and glanced in Bai Qianchun's direction. After a few minutes, he looked away, and there was a hint of gloom in his shrinking eyes. These points were a timely blessing for him. His mother was opposed to him taking the exam for the first military academy. For this reason, he froze his account and locked him in a room. He ran out secretly, but luckily he was in the first military academy. It costs points. Even if his account is frozen, he can support himself by earning more points. Bai Qianchun didn't notice his look, but since he didn't say anything, she didn't ask any more questions. After all, they were just temporary teammates. With this thought, she stood up and prepared to rest. Sun Xian and Uou looked over with discernment and asked in a flattering manner, "Boss, are you ready to take a rest? There is a tent here. We just found it from Brother Huo. We will set it up right away." Bai Qianchun raised her eyebrows lightly and asked casually, "Where are you sleeping?" Uou immediately replied, "There is fresh white hay growing over there. We can just lay it on the ground and sleep. We grown men are not afraid of mosquito bites, nor are we afraid of the open air." Sun Xian also nodded and said with a chuckle, Yes, I can also weave a hammock out of vines and hang it on a tree to sleep. The big boss doesn't need to worry about us. We rough guys can sleep there no matter what." Bai Qianchun looked at their attentive faces with big white teeth exposed. He was silent for a moment, and then said, "No, you and Qin Xiao can sleep together in the tent. I'll make the resting place myself." As she spoke, she threw a handful of seeds into a clearing not far from the bonfire, arranging them to form a square. Bai Qianchun held a ball of green light in his hand, then bent one knee and pressed it on the ground. The seeds quickly penetrate the ground and begin to grow. Camphor vines with clear green roots, as thick as a strong man's thigh, rise from the ground. The roots are inseparable and grow straight upward. After growing to a height of about 3 meters, they begin to stretch out in the center, forming a cone-shaped circle. After the top covered the top, Bai Qianchun slowly retracted his hand and stood up straight. Just like its name, camphor vine has a bit of fragrance. It has an elegant and leisurely light fragrance and has the effect of calming the mind. It is perfect for making a sleeping cabin. She had specially collected the seeds on the road just in case of emergencies. If there were no seeds from the dwarf trees, she could also use camphor vines to build a small house. Now she has used them. It looks and smells better than the dwarf tree house. The only drawback is that the power required to build such a small house is 5 times that of directly using dwarf tree seeds to build a dwarf tree house. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 406. Sun Xin looked at him with a look of astonishment. He was also a wood-type superpower user. He knew that if he wanted to build such a small house, his A-level wood-type superpowers would cost 9 out of 10 to store, and not only would he need to spend such a large amount, you must have precise control over the superpowers, otherwise the house will either leak air or the ceiling will fall apart. This shows Baikin Chun's precise control over supernatural powers. But how much power did she consume? If another person were to spend his powers to create such a flashy house to rest in, he would jump right out and call that person an idiot for consuming a lot of powers just to live in a comfortable place. This behavior is undoubtedly the stupid behavior of a rookie. There are many dangers in the exam room at night, and they have no other lethal weapons. They can only rely on their own superpowers. If they consume most of their superpowers for a house, what if there is an unexpected accident at night, such as a sneak attack by a wild wolf? What to do if you are surrounded by gophers? People without supernatural powers are no different than lambs waiting to be slaughtered. But it was Bai Qianchun who did this. Sun Xian stopped thinking about scolding the rookie as a fool. Instead, he was silently envious and wondered what level the boss's wood power was, and how generous it was to use it to spawn a house. Which shows that her power level is deeper and unpredictable than he thought. He is so envious. As for the boss being a rookie, he didn't expect the crisis and accident at night to be completely out of his mind. The boss must be so strong, so he must have a trump card, so he uses his powers so recklessly. Sun Xian, whose admiration for the boss has reached a new level, immediately laughed and clapped, saying that the boss is great, the boss is awesome, the boss should go to bed early, and he took his friend Yuamalio to pick white hay to please him. Come here and prepare to make the bed for the boss. Bai Qianchun didn't stop them, and allowed them to carry the white hay into the house and look around, and then actively helped her make the bed. Outside the live broadcast, Feng Yuya gritted his teeth and almost chattered his teeth. He could no longer rely on the bed and sat up directly, with his back straight and his eyes alert. These two boys were so daring. It was his wife's bedroom, even if it was temporary, it was his wife's bedroom. They actually went in and helped make the bed. He had never been allowed to do this before. Feng Yuya's face was full of resentment, and his eyes were staring at the two boys in the live broadcast, carefully memorizing their looks, so that he could practice them if there was a chance in the future. He must teach them two things about not being able to enter other people's wives' bedrooms. Dong dong dong, the doorbell suddenly sounded outside the door. Feng Yuya raised his brows and reluctantly reduced the live broadcast interface, then opened the button to link the hatch and gave the command to open the door. The hatch slid open to one side, and Yao Wengxian walked in from the outside wearing a smart and upright suit. There was a circle of black hidden under the gold-rimmed glasses, showing his exhaustion and sleepiness. As soon as he entered the door, his elite face couldn't help but yawned, and tears came out. Then he looked at the man wearing a black nightgown and sitting lazily on the bed with dripping hair, and his eyes immediately showed sadness. Then he sat down on the sofa next to the bed, collapsed, and asked resentfully, "You assigned everything to us, and you just sat here leisurely and prepared to sleep. Where is your conscience?" Feng Yuya lazily leaned against the head of the bed, with a pair of long, slender, and straight legs folded on the bed. Then she raised her peach blossom eyes and glanced at him lightly, "I'm quite busy watching my wife's live broadcast." "Yao Wengxian, tisk, my love brain is hopeless." Feng Yuya looked at him, still slumped there like a dead salted fish, his eyelids could hardly be closed, and then he asked him with disgust from the live broadcast interface, "Say well, what's going on?" After saying that, "Go to bed early, the dark circles under your eyes are almost as dark as those two silly bears you captured." Yao Wengxian struggled to open his eyelids and glared at him angrily. Who could blame him for being so sleepy? It's not that I blame him for being a boss who does nothing but act as a hands-off shopkeeper. But he didn't have the energy to argue with this kid right now. He really needed sleep right now. He yawned and told Feng Yuyu the news he had just received from Adjutant Chuang. You said that my sister-in-law originally did not intend for us to intervene and wanted to contact Marshal Derong in person. But it's not possible now. The news about her has been known by your old marshal, and he has also revealed it to Marshal Derong. Feng Yuyu raised his handsome eyebrows indifferently, and then snorted, "Don't worry about that old thief. Although the movements I made in the Legion this year are hidden, I can't hide it from him. He is the Marshal of the 3rd Legion. The actual controller. He must have followed my wife's direction, and it is possible that he knows my wife's identity. But if he knows, he can help my wife block those people and hide her identity. Better. As for Marshal Derong, that old man loves to play very much. He likes to talk halfway through the conversation. I guess that although Marshal Derong knows that the sole heir to the White Duke Palace is back, he definitely doesn't know who is her." The corner of Yao Wengxian's mouth twitched, and he heard this man shouting, "A thief, old man." Then he looked at him suspiciously. "Are you sure you didn't leak the news and get the old marshal on board? You want the old marshal to take the initiative to help? Did my sister-in-law block prying eyes?" Feng Yuyu's lips curled up, and he smiled and said, "You are a lot smarter. There are so many people on the main planet, and I can't cover the sky with one hand. I'm still a little behind compared to the older generation of people in power. Anyway, my grandfather is a thief, old man. I have a lot of free time as a shopkeeper all year round, and I still have time to steal the potted fruit trees given by my wife, so that he can do some work. She is also his grandson's daughter-in-law." "Yao Wengxian, as expected of you." Then he said calmly, "I'm very smart, thank you." Feng Yuyu waved her hand towards him and rushed them away impatiently. "Okay, if you have nothing to do, go back and rest as soon as possible." Yao Wengxian glanced at him. He really didn't have the energy to argue with him, so he simply shut up and stood up with his hands on his knees, and then walked out the door while yawning unsteadily. Feng Yuyu, who was still lying on the bed, looked away after watching him leave, then enlarged the live broadcast screen and projected it on the opposite wall. He scanned the screen with his eyes but couldn't find Bai Qian-chun. Only the two boys beside the campfire were still humming and setting up a simple tent. He looked at the small wooden house made of camphor vines on the screen with a depressed heart. Regret rose in his eyes. There was no picture of the inside of the wooden house. Otherwise, he could have watched his wife's sleeping face and slept together. But he quickly shook his head. No, the live broadcast is not only for him to watch, but for everyone. If those people can see his wife's sleeping face, it will be easier for them. Feng Yuyu's face suddenly turned serious. "Forget it, it's better to keep it this way, so you can have privacy. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs." Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 407. The next day, inside the 9th Legion station. Marshal's office. Marshal Derong, who was rugged and upright, with a hint of ferocity in his tough appearance, was fiddling with the optical brain in his hands. His thick eyebrows were knitted together, and he was muttering something to the adjutant at the next table. Chatting, "What do you mean by what you said to old Marshal Feng? Are you really reminding me that the princess is back?" The expression on the gentle and handsome face of the adjutant Lu Feng was also uneasy. He pointed at the light brain with his finger, his brows furrowed deeper than Derong said, "Well, there is no conflict between our 9th Army and the Feng family's 3rd Army. Earlier, the Duke I also had a great time cooperating with the 3rd Army when I was there. Besides, there is no need for Marshal Feng to lie to you. This news is most likely true. And I found out that there is indeed something going on at Baijuan. Just now I asked the undercover to check. On the day of registration for the 1st Military Academy, the genetic data about the princess from the gene bank was retrieved. It should be that she really signed up. The first military academy exam is about to take place. The news cannot be concealed. There are only 4 dukes left in the empire. As the only heir to the White Duke's palace, the princess's data in the gene bank is very important. Once it is retrieved, an alarm will be issued. Now the data on the main star is several of you should already know about it, and the gossip has spread. Even if Marshal Feng doesn't remind you, my news network will send the news this afternoon at the latest. De Rong's brows relaxed slightly and he sighed, that's good. The princess is back, and the duke finally has a successor. He doesn't have to be afraid of Bai Zhuangquan's treacherous thief. Lu Feng glanced at him sideways, but his expression was not relaxed. Don't be too happy too early. What if the princess is back? Not to mention that according to the previous news, Bai Zhuangquan has already raised her to waist. Even if she escapes, how much can you grow after being away for 2 years? Besides, now Bai Zhuangquan has completely controlled the property of Duke Bai's mansion. Even our 9th Legion has been mostly penetrated by his minions. He is about to oust you and take over the army. 9th Army, I'm afraid she won't be able to protect herself if she comes back at this time. Bai Zhuangquan will definitely not hand over the power and wealth that he has already talked about easily, and his actions will only become more fierce and ruthless when the time comes. De Rong immediately frowned. You are right, that bitch Bai Zhuangquan is very vicious and treacherous, and his skills are astounding. Under my nose, he instigated most of the people left by the Duke in the 9th Army to rebel. Even Zhou Ang, the 2 people who were promoted by the Marshal along with Ding Zhou, were secretly bribed by him. There is no guarantee that they will not attack the returning princess. No, I must find the princess before Bai Zhuangquan and give her protection. Lu Feng glanced at him with disgust. Marshal, I think you should still worry about yourself. You won't live much longer. Didn't you worry that you would die before, so you had already planned to separate your wife and that boy Yan has been sent back to Kahuaxing. De Rong raked his messy hair and let out a depressed snort. You kid really can't spit out ivory. It's because of your mouth that I was deceived by that kid Ding Zhou's sweet words. I thought you are the traitor. The corner of Lu Feng's mouth curled up in a mocking arc. That's because you are stupid. De Rong didn't take his ridicule seriously. All my talents are focused on war command, and I'm not sensitive to these internal fights and calculations. That's why the Duke specially appointed you and Ding Zhou as my adjutants to help me handle the internal affairs, otherwise that boy Ding Zhou would have risen to prominence so quickly. Huh, that boy is not grateful at all. Now he betrays me and the Duke, and recognizes the thief Bai Zhuangquan as his master. Tisk, the Duke should not have put him in the first place. He was picked up from the garbage planet, and he was still funded to go to school and promoted to the 9th Legion. That kid is not as grateful as you, who became a monk and followed the Duke. There are really 3 sentences that cannot be separated from Ding Zhou. This is so hateful. However, Lu Feng sounded quite happy, and the corners of his originally mocking lips turned up. He had long disliked Ding Zhou, his rival as an adjutant. At this time, De Rong suddenly continued happily, by the way, my little life may still be saved. De Yan, that brat, was lucky enough to buy some pills with a girl from Wuyuan Star a few days ago. Meatballs, it's time to send them over. Lu Feng's face was slightly surprised. Are you sure it works? De Rong grinned his big white teeth. It doesn't matter even if it doesn't work. That brat said that after you play a small game called Muyuangxing farming game, you can customize a pill. I've been playing this recently. I got a small healing pill after passing a small level. After I pass the level, I will be able to meet the rumored miraculous Muyuan Star Lord. With her help, my life may still be saved. This time Lu Feng did not sing the opposite, but said thoughtfully, well, although you are not very smart, you have always been lucky. You may not die this time. As he spoke, Lu Feng lowered his eyes and silently closed one of the screen interfaces filled with some small buds. He had known about this little game for a long time and had been playing it for a few days. Originally, he wanted to surprise Derong after completing the level, but until now he has not been able to plant a single tomato or even a small level. Past, far behind Derong's progress. I don't know why the pastoral game of sowing seeds and watering is so difficult, but it's Derong, the big boss, who is having a great time even watching it. Not seeing Derong's hesitant smile, Lu Feng placed the 5 live broadcast interfaces in front of him on the opposite wall to enlarge them. Okay, let's get to the point. Let's first find out which of these 5 Bai Qian-chun is the princess. Derong was stunned for a moment, then simply turned off the finger he was searching for, looked up, and muttered, "Didn't it say that there are 6 Bai Qian-chuns with the same name in this first military academy exam? Why is there one missing?" Lu Feng, there is also Bai Qian-chun, whose test number is 1987, who did not reach the score during the literary test and was eliminated. Derong, oh, that's definitely not the princess. The Duke is so smart, and the children he gave birth to are certainly not bad. How can a mere literary test stump the princess? Lu Feng squinted his eyes and thought, not necessarily. After all, Bai Zhuangquan has raised the princess since she was a child, and has not hired a teacher for her. It is possible that she cannot pass the literary test. Another possibility is that the princess is smart and will take all the students. Everyone's attention was on the first military academy exam, but I retreated in secret, so as not to arouse suspicion. Derong nodded seriously, "What you said makes sense, then I'll have someone check this eliminated person first. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs." Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 408. The corners of Lu Feng's mouth twitched when he heard this, and he glanced at him. "Can you think about it for yourself? Don't believe anything I say, and you are now under the supervision of Bai Zhuangquan, and your confidants were almost betrayed by Ding Zhou before. If you make any move, Bai Zhuangquan will definitely notice it, and it will be us and the princess who will be disadvantaged." Derong scratched his head with his big hand and said aggrievedly, "Didn't I say that I'm really not very bright in this regard? If I don't listen to your advice, I can't analyze it myself." After hearing what he said, Lu Feng had an expression on his face as if his boss was here for what purpose, but he felt a little relieved in his heart. On the contrary, if Derong had not been so stupid and relied on him in internal affairs over the years, he might not have been able to remain an adjutant under him peacefully for so long. He sighed, "Forget it, I'll ask my secret agent to investigate. Don't move the people on your side yet. Also, have you been sick several times in the past few days? Go out less and make a false impression to let Bai Zhuangquan's side I know you are in poor health and don't have the energy to take care of this matter, and you don't know about it either." Derong immediately grinned and said cheerfully, "Okay, I'm familiar with pretending to be sick. That kid Ding Zhou didn't realize that I was the one pretending to be sick the first 2 times, just to take the opportunity to beat him a few more times." Lu Feng was still convinced about this. Derong was usually quite a mess, with rough hands and feet like a fighting madman. It couldn't be exactly the same as when he was sick, but he still had the 9-point image. "Okay, let's continue watching the live broadcast." Yeah, Derong nodded his head and squinted his eyes to stare at the live broadcast screen carefully. In the next few days, he pretended to be sick several times. After Ding Zhou was paralyzed and unable to take care of himself, he stayed with Lu Feng in the marshal's office every day, watching the live broadcast and looking for clues. Derong couldn't help but comment, "Bai Qian-chun, number 19005, who ranks second in the literary test, is very powerful. She has fierce methods and a strong sense of combat. She is very proficient in using wood powers, and her methods of controlling people are equally good. Custom, all the team members we accepted were obedient and capable. They had already defeated 5 S-class ferocious beasts. The orders given and the distribution of spoils after the war were handled very well. The team members were also enjoying themselves. Compared to the single-player Shen Biu in the live broadcast room next door who won the first place in the literary test, he has much more leadership skills. He is a good candidate to be a commander. He rubbed his hands and couldn't help but want to recruit people into the legion. Lu Feng, do you think she might be the princess? Our Duke was such a charismatic person back then, so I followed the Duke wholeheartedly into the 9th Legion. Before Lu Feng next door could answer, De Rong called up the 2 photos saved in his mind and compared them. He shook his head and said, no, she doesn't look the same. She's too cold. Her facial features are like those of a duke and the Duchess looks nothing like her. Lu Feng stared at the cold girl on the live broadcast screen who was riding on an S-class ferocious beast and scolding Fang Qiu. He nodded in agreement, they really don't look alike. Although the facial features are beautiful, I can't find any similarities. De Rong regretfully moved the live broadcast screen to the side and put another live broadcast screen in the middle. Then let's take a look at Bai Qianchun number 1990. It is the 5th one after Bai Qianchun number 19005. Bai Qianchun was ranked the 2nd most powerful one. She did not bad in the previous literature test, ranking 25th. She applied for the Mecha individual soldier category. She was cold and unsociable, and treated other candidates poorly. I'm very wary. Although I'm strong in fighting, it's like a gangster's fighting style that hasn't been systematically taught. He always rushes for people's fatal points, but the method is still a little immature, like a newbie. Comparing the photos of the Duke and the Duchess, her facial features look like the Duke's, her mouth looks like the Duke's, and her eyes look like the Duchess's. Those eyes are round peach blossoms. I remember the Duke once said that he fell in love with the Duchess. The first thing I saw was her beautiful eyes. De Rong said with emotion. Lu Feng next door glanced at him thoughtfully. Sure enough, this man was the Duke's best friend. He even said such things to him. No wonder De Rong still misses the Duke and talks about him all the time. Back then, their brotherhood must be so deep that they can talk about anything. Later, Lu Feng also compared the photos of Bai Qianchun and the Duke and Duchess on the live broadcast again and again in 1990 to confirm that De Rong was right. Well, the possibility of her is very high. She is cold and withdrawn. It is likely that she was raised by Bai Zhuangquan for more than 10 years, which led to her personality deviation. Her immaturity in fighting may also be something she just learned in the 2 years after she disappeared. Let's list her first. Enter the candidates. De Rong cheered up, let's look at the next one, candidate number 98. Her ranking in the liberal arts test is in the middle and upper reaches. Her performance in the martial arts test is also pretty good. She has mastered the metal power. She can kill an A-level ferocious beast alone. She has a heroic appearance and doesn't talk much. She is somewhat similar to the character of Bai Qianchun, number 1990, who is cold and solitary. As for her appearance, her nose and mouth are like a duchess's, not much like a duke's. Lu Feng frowned, also included in the candidate list, next one. Next is number 994 Bai Qianchun. Well, she is the most outstanding looking among the 5 Bai Qianchun. She seems to be very good at making friends. It has only been a few days and there are already 5 or 6 attentive male candidates gathered around her. Already. The expression on De Rong's rugged face was hard to describe. He always felt that Bai Qianchun, who loved joking with male candidates, was too outstanding and was so unlike the Duke and Duchess. But it is undeniable that her facial features are similar to those of the Duke and Duchess. Her eyes are the same round peach blossoms as those of number 1990 Bai Qianchun, but one is cold and alert, and the other is smiling and affectionate. I don't know which pair of eyes it is. More like a gentle and elegant duchess. As for the last one, Bai Qianshun, candidate number 898, De Rong felt uncomfortable when he saw her, because she was timid, even afraid of the sun. She managed to pass with little difficulty, but if she hadn't met a helpful, stupid man who liked to be a brother who saved her at the beginning, and was willing to lead her into a team to protect her, she would have been killed long ago. The beast devoured him. Let's look at the most important criterion, appearance. She looks very much like the Duke and the Duchess, and Lu Feng just received a photo from a hidden source of the real Duke and Bai Zhuangquan's illegitimate daughter by ruling at the Duke's palace. She looks like the princess in the photo. The striking resemblance, it can even be said that they are exactly the same, almost even the unremarkable height is the same, but now her facial features are slightly longer, there is more flesh on her body, and she looks more beautiful. Although neither De Rong nor Lu Feng wanted to admit it, the timid Bai Qianshun was indeed the most similar among the five to the abandoned princess in the intelligence. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 409. By family. Bai Zhuangquan was wearing an expensive suit. At first glance, he looked gentle and mature, but the cold and sharp light in his eyes made people understand that he was not as rich and gentle as he appeared on the surface. At this time, he was also watching the live broadcast with a headache. He squinted his eyes and analyzed which one was the real Bai Qianshun on the screen. He didn't even care about his son taking the exam. Sitting next to him was a gorgeous woman in bejeweled clothes. She raised her eyebrows and stared at the live broadcast screen with delicate eye makeup. She had an ugly and sinister look on her well-maintained face, and she gritted her teeth and cursed. Said, "I know that little bitch is not a cheap person. She has known how to seduce my son since she was a child, and she even took the opportunity to escape. Now she has taken the exam of the first military academy under false pretenses. Humph, I don't think I need to look for him anymore. The one from before, she will definitely be eliminated. I've been watching that little bitch since she was a child, and I even cut off her star network. She can't learn anything even if she wants to. It's only been 2 years. How can she pass the first military academy exam, even though our family has carefully trained her? My son only passed the liberal arts test after passing the exam. There is no way that little bitch can be better than our son." Bai Zhuang's brows furrowed and he glanced at her lightly. "You bastard, you still have the nerve to say that you really thought I didn't know about the commotion at Fanchun Hotel before. You gave them the idea, right?" Wei Ru's face stiffened, and then she said with a sneer, "Isn't it for our son? What's wrong with me spending star coins to get those candidates to sign contracts to help my son? It's something you and I agree on, and no one else can find fault with it. Speaking of which, this is all your fault. Although your son is studying well in the 8th Military Academy, you still want our son to be admitted to the 1st Military Academy before agreeing to let him marry the 3rd princess. Let me tell you, the 3rd princess is also pretty good. She is the status of the princess is more respectable than that of the orphan girl from the Shen family. Even if it costs 60 billion as a betrothal gift, it's not like our family can't afford it." Bai Zhuangquan snorted calmly, "Short-sighted, you pay for the Fanchun Hotel yourself." Wei Ru was very dissatisfied with what her husband said about her. She would pay for it by herself. Her family had money, so she could afford such a small expense. Wei Ru's chest rose up and down angrily twice, but Wei Ru quickly calmed down again. Who could tell that this was a capable husband she had chosen by herself? She snorted softly and reluctantly compromised and said, "We are now discussing about that little bitch Bai Qianshun. Don't change the subject. Who do you think is the bitch?" Bai Zhuangquan rubbed his eyebrows and sighed softly, "Your previous analysis also makes sense. She grew up under our noses. Now she has only escaped for 2 years. No matter how smart she is, she can only learn so much. That one was eliminated. I will check it, and there is also this number 898. It is possible that I passed the literary test. Wei Ru was satisfied, and then echoed, I also think it's one of these two. It can't be the excellent second place anyway. Husband, you have a good idea. The more I look at number 898 by Jianchun, the more he looks like him, looks similar, and has a similar temperament to this cowardly little mouse. I will also find someone to check her background. Just give a little girl to my parents' side. They are doing business and can collect more information than you. There are many of those under my command. Bai Zhuangquan nodded calmly, then leave it to my father-in-law to check. By the way, the other 4 named by Jianchun will also check together. The matter of me taking over the title of Duke is now at a critical juncture. Keep an eye on I have a lot of people. That little girl by Jianchun can't make any mistakes. Find the people first. Don't act rashly on your side. Don't ask people to pour dirty water on me, so as not to inherit the inheritance. Being tripped up. Wei Ru, who originally wanted to secretly kill the little bitch, paused and reluctantly responded, okay, I understand. Bai Jianchun, who was stamped by Marshal Derong and Bai Zhuangquan as the most unlikely second placer in the literary test, was leading a group of people to attack an SS level 2-headed black snake. Ever since the school suddenly announced a rule that night that points could be exchanged for B-level and above ferocious beast meat and medicinal herbs, the martial arts candidates have turned their heads and no longer just stared at the competitors around them. Instead, they all focused on the ferocious beasts in the rainforest. Candidates can only earn 1 point by grabbing each one. The most they can get from candidates in the economics department is 51 points. But it is different when fighting a vicious beast. Each beast requires at least hundreds of kilograms of meat. The points exchanged more. Another thing is that it takes time and effort to find someone to grab candidates' points, but hunting ferocious beasts doesn't require that. They don't need to look for them. The ferocious beasts just come to their doorsteps. Comparing the two, of course it is better to hunt ferocious beasts to earn points. Cheaper. Anyone with some ability will go back to hunt ferocious beasts. No, since the second day of the martial arts exam, most of the candidates have started looking for teammates and started hunting ferocious beasts with great fanfare. Bai Jianchun also officially accepted Sun Xin and Uou into her team in the afternoon of the next day. In the following days, she successively accepted several candidates who had passed the test and showed good strength and character into her team. Quan Lang, who was in the same examination room, was also among them. Speaking of which, Quan Lang's luck was really bad after he came in. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was surrounded by bad luck. As soon as he came in, like Bai Jianchun, he was sent to the door of the beast's house and became a snack. Fortunately, it was only a sea-level beast. He was so embarrassed that he managed to kill the beast and survived. After that, he seemed to be stepping on an unlucky circle. After killing the sea-level beast, he was stunned for a few minutes before he encountered a B-level beast that came to seize the territory. It chased him all over the forest, and even almost came to an end. If you step on a trap made by a certain candidate, you will die. Fortunately, he was also a capable person, so he didn't die. He used the trap to avoid the B-level ferocious beast again, and then he continued running like a tenacious little strongman, and the ferocious beasts continued to appear. When Bai Jianchun led a group of people and met Quan Lang, he was in ragged clothes, with blood scabs everywhere on his body. He was paralyzed like a wandering savage, and he was still squatting on the tree next to him. A ferocious giant bird, as if it would just wait for Quan Lang to die and it would pounce down and snatch people away. In short, there is only one word: miserable. Quan Lang, who was desperately planning to press the button to exit the assessment, couldn't tell how excited he was when he saw Bai Qianchun. After Bai Qianchun killed the giant bird and resolved the crisis, Quan Lang was filled with snot and tears. He hugged her thigh and said that he would join Bai Qianchun's team no matter what. He no longer wanted to fight alone as a savage. Bai Qianchun did not treat him preferentially because he was an acquaintance. Instead, he followed the rules and asked him to observe with the team first. After passing the observation test period, he was allowed to join the team. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 410. After Quan Lang joined the team, Bai Qianchun heard from his nagging mouth his adventures of fighting various ferocious beasts alone. After hearing this, she was quite satisfied, not only because Quan Lang was being chased by ferocious beasts. The fact that he can still hold on until now despite running in such a dangerous situation shows that his strength is good, and because Quan Lang seems to have the physique to attract ferocious beasts, all kinds of ferocious beasts come to his door just by standing there. Isn't it a perfect monster-absorbing artifact? Their team doesn't need such a monster-attracting machine right now. After Quan Lang joined, ferocious beasts kept coming, one at a time, and now this SS-level double-headed black snake was heading towards Quan Lang as soon as it appeared. Speaking of this two-headed ink snake, its concealment ability is really strong. They were passing through a rotten black and smelly swamp, and it suddenly sprang out from behind a few black stones. If it hadn't been for Bai Qian due to his quick reaction, Quan Lang had to be bitten off half of his body and died on the spot. There are 8 people in Bai Qianchun's team with her, plus 2 people who were beggars on the road and were not included in the team during the assessment and observation. There are 10 people in total. Each of them is holding a robotic arm or one issued by the school tremblingly. Saber swallowed and gritted his teeth, nervously looking at the tall, invincible, and fierce two-headed snake in the black swamp, confronting it. Look at this giant snake. Its head is bigger than any of them. It opens its bloody mouth and can swallow 2 people with one head. Several people who encountered the SS beast for the first time were a little panicked. While swallowing, Sun Xian poked the frightened Quan Lang next to him, and murmured in a low voice, "Next time, you should put away your monster-attracting charm. The previous S-level ferocious beasts will be forgotten. The SS-level beasts like this now are terrible, don't come again. If the car accidentally overturns, our entire team will be wiped out. We have redeemed a lot of points with Big Brother by before. It would be a pity if the car overturns and we are eliminated." Quan Lang looked like he was about to cry, his face was wrinkled in pain. "I can't take away this charm if I want to. First of all, I have to know whether it was caused by me, and secondly, I have to know that it's easy for me to operate if there is something on my body that can attract monsters, but now I don't know how I attracted monsters, or whether it was me." Sun Xian patted him on the shoulder. "Don't underestimate yourself and doubt your own charm. It almost swallowed you when it opened its mouth. It didn't come after you but someone else. There are also several waves of ferocious beasts that we encountered before. There is a serious disaster area around you. Walk around, walk over and get closer to the boss so that he can protect you. Today is different from the past. This one is SS level. You must not be caught." The big snake took it away. Quan Lang looked at him with a moved face. "Good brother, you will still think about me." Sun Xian's macho tearful eyes made him hairy all over, with a stern look on his face. "I don't want the team's monster-attracting machine to be gone. Before I met you, our team was too powerful and scared away the monsters. No, it's too much trouble to find it by yourself." Quan Lang, who was being treated as a tool, suddenly he wasn't very moved. Feeling Quan Lang approaching, the 2 pairs of scarlet snake eyes looked in her direction. Bai Qianchun did not panic at being targeted. Instead, she raised her eyebrows, feeling a little more curious about Quan Lang's physique. "When we met the A-level and S-level beasts before, Although they did attack one after another after Quan Lang appeared, they attacked all of them at the same time. It was not like a two-headed giant snake with such a pointed direction. Jiang, clearly focused on Quan Lang. Suddenly, the snake's vertical eyes shrank, and it couldn't hold it any longer, and swooped straight in the direction of Bai Qianchun with a fierce wind. Bai Qianchun's face turned cold, and he commanded with a calm voice, speaking very fast, "Quan Lang, follow me, others disperse." Yes. The group had been under Bai Qianchun's command along the way, and had worked well together, and now they had quite a tacit understanding. They almost reacted instantly to Bai Qianchun's orders. Bang! As a giant snake head opened its mouth, revealing its sharp snake teeth, it rushed toward the ground. The figures around it had dispersed. Bai Qianchun grabbed Quan Lang's shoulder and jumped into the air, tapping her toes. The snake head that hit the ground jumped up, raised its eyes and faced another snake head that was still standing in the air and rushed towards Quan Lang. A thorn vine grew rapidly in her hand, and its sharp thorns swayed towards the snake leaves that were spitting out from its open mouth without hesitation. Hiss! A hissing sound was heard, and the severe pain caused the snake head to attack in a different direction. Bai Qianchun and Quan Lang escaped smoothly. Quan Lang, who was in fear, just breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Bai Qianchun advancing instead of retreating and taking the initiative to attack. The thorns and vines were entangled, and with a twist and pull, the bloody snake letter was pulled out directly, and the blood-red fishy smell suddenly sprayed all over the ground. Bai Qianchun carried Quan Lang away and avoided it. The giant snake hissed, and its scarlet eyes no longer looked at Quan Lang, but instead aimed at the anger that he had provoked with his own strength, and pulled all the hatred from it on him. Bai Qianchun! With a violent roar, the giant snake swung its tail and attacked Bai Qianchun with both heads. With the huge body of the giant snake, and the indestructible black snake skin as thick as a city wall, it is absolutely possible to crush someone to death. Bai Qianchun looked cold. She carried Quan Lang and dodged. She jumped down from the air. After landing, she threw Quan Lang to the side. She turned around and quickly ran towards the giant snake with her feet. She touched the ground with her toes and soared into the air. He stood up and once again took the initiative to meet the two-headed giant snake. In mid-air, a ball of green light exploded from her slender but muscular body, and 8 thorns and vines as thick as thighs flew out and attacked the entangled giant snake. At the same time, her cold voice commanded again, "Gather the fire and attack 7 inches of it." The 9 people who were scattered around with vigilant faces and did not dare to act rashly immediately lit up their eyes, and then rushed towards the giant snake with resolute expressions. Even Quan Lang, who had just landed, was no exception. He gritted his teeth and defeated the snake after being captured just now. My legs were weak, and I rushed with my brothers in excitement. The boss didn't say retreat and escape, which means that this SS-level beast can be captured. This got them excited. This was an SS-level ferocious beast. Even soldiers who had been in the Legion for several years might not be able to encounter it, let alone subdue it and kill it. Now they met when they were taking the exam for the first military academy. The fledgling and enthusiastic teenagers suddenly didn't know how to write the word fear, and they did what the commander said. With Bai Qianchun controlling the thorn vine, Yufa was entangled and restrained by the 2 snake heads. The pressure on the 9 people attacking 7 inches from behind was greatly reduced. The more they fought, the braver they became. Soon the snake skin with strong defensive power was covered with bloody scars. After more than half an hour of fighting and relentless attacks again and again, the 2 snakeheads were pricked by thorns and vines, dripping with blood and covered with bloody flesh. Finally, with a bang, the giant snake's 2 high-lofted heads were smashed down on the ground. They finally captured this SS-level beast.